CHAKRAS.
By you speaking your truth from a space of love in a safe container, you now allow your love to be expressed and received in its authentic state, beyond the illusions that are there. And I could not highlight how healing this is for our root center, for our sexual, sensual energy, and our spiritual journey at large. We are unconsciously living in realities that do not exist, that we are placing on ourselves. But when we can move through that darkness with love, truth, authentic expression, and sensitivity, then we come back to the baseline state of bliss that we are, the baseline state of love that we are, both parties. Welcome, beautiful beings, to season 2 of the Cosmic Love Antenna podcast with your host, Harrison Ma. This podcast sets the loving intention of creating the mystical space needed to pull back the layers restricting health, alignment, and love. Now let's walk you home to your cosmic spiritual heart space. Before we continue this beautiful chat today, wonderful souls, I need to jump in here to share something really exciting. If you've been following these episodes or you've been following me on social media, you know that I am in the process of releasing my first book, Your Cosmic Love Antenna, Define, Embody, and Emit Your Unique Frequency of Love. And at the time of this episode release, pre-orders are now open. If you have been pulled to this show, if you're looking to understand the what, the how, and the why of love, if you're looking to apply some of the tools connected to your chakras, inner child, releasing religious trauma, ancestral healing, emotional release, and so much more, then this beautiful expression from my heart to yours is for you. If you are looking to channel more of your unique gifts and the divine frequency that you are, these pages will open all of this up. And if you're interested, all you need to do is go to cosmicloveantenna.com. That's cosmicloveantenna.com. And you can pre-order this book right now. If you pre-order, click on that link, put in your email, you're going to get access to some special gifts that I'm only offering to those who get in before I release it fully. These gifts are going to be some more channeled meditations, activations, and some other surprises from my heart to yours. So head over to cosmicloveantenna.com, pre-order this beautiful expression, and I can't wait to hear how it shifts your life. If you're listening to this after pre-order sales, that same link can be also used to go to the direct purchase link. Sending love, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of this episode today. Good evening, morning, afternoon, beautiful beings. Welcome back to another live podcast, a podcast episode, a Solo-sode with your host, Harrison, and all of the beautiful beings that are you either watching here live or listening on the podcast player. I am excited to be back today with another Solo-sode, another episode with just me, just Harrison, here with all of you, talking about a topic that I set the intention of not just diving deep into and expressing from my heart to yours, but giving you some very actionable, practical tools, guidance, and love to move through all that you need to move through to pull back the layers restricting health, alignment, and love. And I'm going to get into that topic today. But first, as always, I want to set the loving container and foundation here. If you're joining live on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube, welcome. I see your beautiful faces. Welcome, Helen. Good morning. For all of you listening on the podcast player, if this episode hits your heart today, please remember to share this out far and wide to a friend, a family member, a lover that you can get connected to, that you can help them open up to. And some of these tools today is really going to help them in many ways. And please remember to leave your feedback over on Apple and Spotify. That helps us expand the show. Today, what are we talking about? One of my favorite topics, two of my favorite topics actually, your chakras and your sexual sensual energy. Today, I'm going to be discussing how we can use the chakra centers to activate and stimulate and expand your sexual energy. Today, I'm going to be focusing on the root chakra specifically. I'm going to be talking about physical needs, safety, support, and security, the inner child, tribe and belonging, fight or flight, and many more subjects. My intention, as I stated, is to give you some tools, some energetic, emotional, spiritual tools within the chakra system to expand this energy. So I'm going to flow today. And if at any point, especially if you're watching live on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube, if you have comments, please pop them in and I'll include you in the show if any questions bubble up. And good morning, Helen. Sending love. Before I get into these first set of tips here, I want to highlight one of the beautiful members of the community. As I mentioned, one of the ways you can expand the show is leaving your feedback over on Apple. And this is a review that was left for me. This is from the lovely Christine. And Christine says, Harrison is a much needed light in this world. I first came across Harrison and his podcast on LinkedIn, of all places. His beautiful radiant energy and the light immediately resonated with me. I started listening to the podcast, and the wisdom he shares is deep and goes straight into the heart, allowing me into the deeper sides of myself. I always love hearing Harrison's teachings from the heart, and love is vulnerability and compassion, which you can enjoy in many different ways. If you haven't tuned in to Harrison's light and his energy frequency yet, I highly recommend that you do. Christine, thank you for your beautiful words, and I receive them in my heart. And I'm happy that one of the intentions of this show is to remind all of you of the loving light that you are, right? So you've heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it again in this moment. This is to Christine, but to all of you tuning in. The extent in which you feel my love and my light is the extent in which you have expanded that in yourself, right? So when you feel me and feel my words or feel the tools or the things that I'm saying, ask yourself, what is the thing that is feeling that? What is the piece inside of you that holds resonance? And this is not taking away from my beautiful love, but it's helping you to see the love that is you as well. So thank you, Christine, for your lovely words. All right, so let's get into it. I want to summarize here before we get into all things root chakra. I want to summarize why this is important, why this link between the chakra system and your sexual sensual energy is why we even need to have this discussion in the first place, in my opinion. And firstly, it's because your sensual sexual energy is your creation energy. Let me put this another way. The degree in which you allow yourself to feel the sensual sexual being that you are is the degree in which you are able to create and share that creation with the outside world. There's a reason that we can, specifically within the physical body, we can connect someone's overall ability to show up in the world and correlate it with their sexual function, right? Their sexual needs, their sexual desires, you get the idea. So if we can enhance and love and expand, especially from an energetic and emotional and spiritual lens, your sensual and sexual function, then it's not just a beautiful physical reward. It is a emotional and spiritual one too, right? Because when you are energized as the sexual sensual being that you are, you show up in the world differently. You show up as vibrant. You show up as bright. You show up as magnetizing. You show up as someone that others want to be around. And that's not because people want to be intimate with you. People want to have sex with you. That may be a part of it. But the deeper layer of it is they feel that energy. They feel that creation energy. They feel that sensual power that is inside of you, that is also inside of them. But they feel it because it's them too, and they want it to a degree. So this is the importance. And where the chakra system comes in my opinion, and if many of you are reading my new book that was just released, you'll know this. The chakra system is the bridge between your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual being. Your chakra system and all the different chakras, they help you add a framework of tools, which I'm going to go on today, which I'm going to explain different tools. They help you add a framework to expand into, to take action on, to help to understand different parts of your essence. An example being this sexual energy that we're talking about today. So you can use the chakra system within any challenge that you have emotionally, energetically. So today we're slapping onto the system the sexual energy, the sensual energy. Right? You'll start to see what I mean by this. So with all of that said, let's get into some tools and some practices today and some understandings, all focused in on the root center and your sexual sensual energy. The first set of understandings here around the root center in its relation to your sexual energy is your root chakra governs many things, and I'm going to highlight them today. And the first thing it governs is your physical needs, your physical, bodily, somatic needs. So the degree in which we allow these physical needs to be met is the degree in which we allow our sexual sensual energy to flow. Okay, so today what I'm going to do is add in the intention throughout these examples of the sexual expansion and connect it to each of these practical tools. So let's give some examples here. So I understand I can optimize my root center through physical needs, through meeting the physical needs. How can I do this? What are some examples of this? So the first one is movement. Okay, movement is a physical need that we must meet within the root center. But what kind of movement? There's many kinds. There's many kinds of movement that we can apply. What I'm going to suggest here is the things that I've had experience with, that I use personally and that I help people with. And the first is yoga, but specifically Yin Yoga. And Yin Yoga is very special because it allows the feminine to move through us. And what I mean by that is your divine feminine is the side of the twin flame heart that exists inside of you that governs your rest, that governs your being, that governs your stillness, that governs your allowing, that governs your receiving. When we connect this to sexual energy and sensual energy, in my experience, and maybe some of you can relate to this, within the sexual dance and the sensual dance, the divine feminine is very underutilized. We spend most of our sexual energy and sexual desire on the masculine, right? And the masculine is needed. It is an equal part. But where we have an issue is when we are in one more than the other, when we are too masculinized and we don't remember the feminine, right? And this is not a gender thing. This is the divine feminine, the divine masculine that exists in every physical soul. So going back to yoga and meeting this need, when we do Yin Yoga, when we hold a pose, when we are resting in a pose, when we're holding, let's use an example, let's say frog pose, right? When we're holding a pose and holding that, the hip opening space of that, and we're not moving, we're not doing, we're just resting in the pose. What you are now doing is allowing that feminine to move through you. You're allowing that feminine to be there. You're allowing yourself to receive. So now what we're doing is we're not just ticking the movement of the root center, that physical need. We're also practicing what it feels like to receive within the sensual act, to just receive without feeling the need to reciprocate. Because that's the key here. And I'm going to speak about this in other ways. When we are dancing in the sensual sexual energy, as soon as we have expectations and attachments, we are in imbalance. You deserve to give with no expectation or attachment. You equally deserve to receive with no expectation or attachment. So this yin practice, you can set this intention to optimize this part. Another physical need practice that we can meet here within the root center to expand your sexual energy is through the movement practice of dance. And I'm going to speak about this in more depth in the next episode when I talk about the sacral chakra. But I want to speak about it here in this moment to expand on the idea that when we are meeting the movement need of the root center and we are setting the intention of sexual energy expansion, what dance now becomes is an opportunity to alchemize any shadows that we have. Okay, and I want to explain what I mean by this. And I just want to welcome all the lovely souls. Rose, I see you there, my friend. Maria, Christy, thank you for joining. Rochelle, thank you for joining the live. If you have questions today that pop up, pop them in the comments. So the dance practice of the movement within the root center. Most of us, myself included, within the sexual energy intention that we have today, we have a lot of wounds. We have a lot of shadows. We have a lot of trauma around opening up, right? Around receiving pleasure, around any sort of sexual interaction. When we add in the physical practice of dance into our own routine, our body now becomes an alchemization station. And what I mean by that is we can allow any shadow, any density, any negativity that we have from the past to move through our body. Our body now becomes the conduit in which we transmute any density, anything that is holding us back from feeling pleasure or acting on pleasure, taking desire. So dance is a powerful practice with this intention. The last little tool here within this section before I continue on is meeting these physical needs of the root center is connecting to the earth. But I'm going to go deeper to this because I don't just mean grounding. That's part of this. But I want to go even deeper with this practice because when we connect back to our intention of sexual energy, there is a big deficit in the feminine, like I spoke about earlier. And a lot of us overlook the divine feminine soul that we're all living on. What do I mean by this? The earth that we currently live on is a soul much like us. And not only is she a soul, she's a very powerful feminine soul, divine feminine soul. She has both polarities, but the divine feminine is very apparent in her essence. And what I'm getting at here is a practice that you can learn to do to connect to your root, to open your root center, and also start to expand deeper into your sexual sensual energy, is allowing yourself to be held by the feminine heart of the earth. Allowing yourself to be held by the feminine heart of the earth. What does this look like? It's practically what this looks like, and I do this almost every day when it's not raining. Going outside, connecting to the earth, going into meditation, but then dropping into the visualization of opening yourself up to the heart of Mother Earth, seeing the core of the earth. This could be seeing a heart. This could be seeing like a a science fiction, image of the core of the earth, whatever you need to do, but allowing yourself to surrender and fall back into the heart that is the Mother Earth, allowing her to hold you, allowing her to receive you, allowing her to support you. This in itself can show you an example of what it looks like to be in this feminine energy, to be in this feminine, and this is the next tip here within this root center. It shows you what it looks like to have safety, support, and security. One of the biggest challenges we have with our root center, and it manifests in our sexual energy and our sexual dynamics and our sensual relationships. One of the biggest challenges is we don't feel safe, we don't feel supported, we don't feel secure. So we can meet this need with the earth. We can allow her to hold us. We can allow her to receive us. We can allow her to remind us of the safety that is there. And then we can take the action to embody that feeling, because we'll feel it. We'll feel it in our body. And we can share that in our relationships. We can share that in our dynamics. So that's a big one. And I'm happy it's resonating in the chat, seeing it all come through. Yeah, Rose, happy it's resonating, my friend. And Jenna, the rain, it's universal. All right, so let's continue with this conversation. And I want to keep going here into all things safety, support, and security. And what I mean by this is within this root center, this is the foundation of the root center. If you're to take anything away from this conversation today, it's that the root chakra is governed by these three feelings: safety, support, and security. When they're not met, then we project them into our outside relationships. We expect our partners, our intimate lovers, whoever we're connecting with, we expect them to meet the need. And there's no judgment here. But we need to become aware of this, because let me be very clear with my words. Every need that we project onto someone else, we can meet inside. Every need we project onto someone else, there is a piece of us, there is a loving part of us that can meet that need, including this safety, support, and security. So a very practical tool that we can apply here to this root center theme is getting into the questioning habit of, what is this need that I'm projecting? And honestly asking, is there a way I can meet this? Is there a way that I can meet this safety desire that I expect my partner to give me? Is there a way I can meet this security desire that I expect my partner to give me? And I'm going to give some more examples of how to do this today, but just that inquiry alone can help you expand, can help you illuminate that which needs to be seen. That's stopping the sexual energy from flowing. That's stopping the sensual energy from embodying more through you. Speaking of which, this brings me to the next tool and practice here to expand this root center and expand your sexual energy. It is the breath. Okay, and I'm going to give some examples of some types of breath that we can use. But just to sort of set the foundation of the breath here, your breath is the gateway and the portal back to the present moment. Not just the portal and the gateway back to your present moment, it is the portal and the gateway back to your presence, your source, the most divine part of you. And I would encourage you to remember that throughout this chakra series that I'm going to be doing with all the different areas. Your breath will be a continual theme that I'll keep coming back to. And it's because of this. It's because your breath is your opening to more of you. Your breath is your gateway back to the God essence that's in your heart. No matter the type of breath that we use, and I'm going to give different examples, But no matter the type of breath, it has that foundation. It has that foundation to opening up to your source. So what kind of breath can we use for the root center? What kind of breath can we use to expand the sexual energy in relation to the root center? The first is an exaggerated exhale. Why do I say this? What does this mean? When we intentionally breathe in, but then breathe out even slower, we are doing a few different things. Firstly, when we exaggerate the exhale, we activate our parasympathetic nervous system. And for people that are new to that, what that simply means, it is the nervous system that we allow ourselves to go into rest and digest, or to allow ourselves to receive, or to allow ourselves to rest, to just be here for a moment. Just the act of exaggerating that exhale versus the inhale allows us to do that. Going back to the theme of the feminine that I spoke about before, this would be a way to invite that feminine in. When we also extend the exhale, what are we adding in more of? What are we doing more of? We're adding in more stillness. We're adding in more quietness. We're adding in more what? Feminine. So this practice alone, just by adding this in to your sexual, sensual practices, and let me be very clear, when I say sexual and sensual practices, it doesn't need to involve a partner. All of what I've said thus far and will say today can be done with yourself, with your own self-sexual pleasure or your own self-sensual pleasure. Right? So just adding that breath to your own practice can bring balance back to the energy that is needed for the sensual energy to flow through the root. The second breath practice with the root center this is probably one of my favorites. And I'll just share here. One of the intentions of doing this show is because my own sexual energy has really up-leveled recently. It's really gotten to new heights. And one of the reasons for that is this practice I'm about to share, this breath practice. And it is using the breath, but also intentionally squeezing the pelvic floor. Okay, squeezing, maybe some of you listening have done Kegel exercises. If you are, in a male body, what this looks like is that squeezing of the perineum area. In the female body, it's that pelvic floor, Kegel area, but it's squeezing as we breathe in and then releasing as we breathe out. So from a physical lens, that alone, what it is doing is helping us come into intentional interaction with that area of our body. And I just want to highlight the importance of this. As a male that has spent a lot of his life disconnected from that, allowing himself to feel that area of his body, most of us, male and female, are disconnected from how that area of the body feels in general. Not just the external layers of that sexual anatomy, but the internal area, which is where this breath comes in. When we activate the pelvic floor and we breathe out, release it, we're coming back into conscious, loving awareness of that area through the root and through the anatomical structure. So that breath alone, that practice alone allows us to reawaken that space, either with ourselves, and I'll be very transparent and raw and vulnerable. This practice I've yet to do with a partner. I've only ever done it by myself. Right? I've only ever done that intentional activation of the pelvic floor and the breath by myself. So I can say, you don't need a partner to do this. It definitely can be expanded with a partner, but it's not required. The other piece of this breath that I want to really expand into with your root and the sexual energy is when we do this breath, when we squeeze and we exhale, if you also, within that practice, you add a visualization of your sensual, sexual, creative energy moving up your sushumna or your central column, now you are doing something very significant that I want to make sure everyone is clear around. We are under the illusion, welcome, Ali, perfect timing. We are under the illusion that our sexual, sensual energy is just a sexual organ thing or a sexual organ element, where in reality, the creation energy that you awaken through your sexual, sensual activities is a full body experience. It deserves to be a full body experience. So going back to this breath that we activate through the root center, when we squeeze the pelvic floor through the breath and we add the internal visualization of that energy moving up our central column, we are now stimulating and allowing that energy to be moved through the rest of our being. Just by that act, just by that breath. So I hope you take many things away from this podcast chat today. But if you take that one act alone, it will be enough. It will be enough to expand this relationship with your root center, your sexual energy, and that creative being that you are. All right, let's keep going. Just want to reset here for all the people listening live, watching live. Welcome. If you have any comments and questions, Jenna, happy it's resonating with you. And Rose, Ali, welcome. If you have any comments on your heart, both on LinkedIn and YouTube as well, I'm going to check the comments as I go. Please leave them. And I'd love to engage. If anything pops up, I'll add it into the flow. All right. So we've talked about physical needs. We've talked about dance. We've talked about safety, support, and security. We've talked about the breath. I now want to go into specifically another theme of the root center that is something that shuts off the root center, shuts off and impacts this sensual, sexual energy exchange, is being in a constant fight or flight response, being in a constant fight or flight state. And I did a podcast episode a few weeks ago on this specifically, and I'll put it in the show notes for people to go listen to. But I want to hit on it here quickly and what we can do about it. And I want to encourage all of you to understand why we get into this state. Most of us are in this because most of us are traumatized, myself included, from a childhood, adolescence, and being in a world that we live in, right? A lot of world events, a lot of things going on that leave us in a constant hypervigilant looking outside of us for the thing that's going to get us, right? That's fight or flight. The root center governs this state in many ways, mostly because the root center is connected to our adrenal glands, and our adrenal glands govern this fight or flight balance that most of us are in balance around. So just the awareness of this connection alone can help you come back into equilibrium. But I want to give a practice that helps with this specifically, that helps you release and let go of the fight or flight response, and thus allows this sexual, sensual energy to expand. Because let me be very clear with my words. If you are looking to share your sexual energy with either yourself or a partner, you will have a very hard time to do that, in doing that, if you are in a chronic fight or flight state, right? Because sexual function is not on the list of priorities when you're running from a tiger, when you're running from a lion, when you're constantly looking for the thing outside of you that's going to get you. So it's very important to allow ourselves to relax, allow ourselves to come back into the rest and digest. And we've talked about this today already in terms of the breath, in terms of connecting to the earth heart. But the practice I want to share here is cultivating a connection to your inner mother. Okay, and I want to distinguish this between connecting to the earth mother. That's another mother that we can connect to. Very important. You should do that. But you also have an inner mother energy that whether you are a male or a female, you have access to. It is a part of your group consciousness. It is not your actual mother. She's another part of your group consciousness. It's not the earth mother. This is the divine mother that exists inside of you, that is in your heart in many ways. So what we can do is when we have become aware of this fight or flight response that we are in a chronic state of, we can go into a meditation, and I do this with people one-on-one. So if you've worked with me, you know what this looks like, but I will show you now here in this moment. Go into meditation, connect into the type of meditation that works for you, but then within that practice, calling to this mother archetype, calling to this mother energy, calling to this inner mother, and most importantly, and this has been the theme of this episode, giving yourself permission to receive the guidance she wishes to give you. Right, and that could be simply reminding you how to let go. That could be simply reminding you that you're always safe. That could be simply reminding you that you don't need to look outside of you for that abuser anymore. Right? Because I'll get real with you. Most of us are in this fight or flight state because we've been through some kind of abuse, some kind of trauma. Right? So now we are in constant vigilance for that same trauma happening again. So this is where the inner mother comes in. She comes in to allow and remind you that you are safe, that you are supported, that you are secure, and that you are loved. But you need to ask. You need to request. You need to allow yourself to receive. So step into this. And Maria, happy it's resonating. You're welcome. Yes, Maria, post a comment. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Ali saying, mother from another mother. Yes. In many ways. So let's keep flowing. I have a couple more to get to here, a couple more practices, tools, tips to support you with this root chakra and sexual energy connection here today. I hope it's bringing you value. The second last tool and tip I want to speak to today is, and I'm so excited to share this practice because this was gifted to me this week actually by a beautiful being and a wonderful soul in my life that shared this practice with me, and I now want to share it with all of you. And this is connected to the theme of the root center of tribe. Okay, and a very big energetic understanding around our root space is our lack thereof of a tribe. One of the reasons for this is that before we lived in these homes by ourselves mostly, we didn't live like this. We lived for many thousands of years in tribes, in communities, in collectives. So we have evolved, not just physically, but energetically, spiritually, to be in community, to be in a tribe. When we do not have that, there is a part of us that seeks it. There's a part of us that's looking for it. So while we have all the answers from a spiritual lens inside of us, physically, energetically in some ways, there is a part of us that is looking for a tribe. And that's okay, because we need it. So how does this connect to our sensual sexual energy? when we are in a dynamic with someone, sharing sexual, sensual energy, whether it's with a friend, an intimate lover, in many ways, we are in a tribe with them. We are in a relationship, right? We're sharing. And based off how tribe has been present in your life before that state, you are either going to be very open and comfortable with it, or if you're in my case, you might be extra sensitive because you haven't had it for a long time, or you haven't opened your heart to it in a long time. So their tool here that I want to share with all of you is something called the Divine 3-minute game. And what this looks like is it connects to this need of tribe, but specifically helps you connect to tribe by allowing yourself to receive what you're ready for in the context of a tribe, in the context of maybe the exchange of sensual and sexual energy. And what the 3-minute game is basically you are with someone else, at least one other person, start off with one other person. And for 3 minutes, you give permission to that person to give you something that you desire. So an example would be, you say to that person, I would like you to hold space for me for 3 minutes so I can express myself. An example would be, I would like you to hold my hand while I express some emotions through my body for 3 minutes. So very simple and basic examples, but you can already feel just in the frequency and the resonance of that, not just what it's allowing you to do as the individual, but what it's allowing the dynamic to move through. Right? Because there's energy here. When we're witnessed by someone else in a tribe, that has effect on us. When we feel someone else in their power in a tribe, that has effect on us. So this 3-minute game now becomes a space in which we can reconnect back to this balanced need of tribe. And for me, as someone who has started to explore this experience, it's been quite soothing to this root center desire and the flow of sensual and sexual energy. Because I'll share another image here with all of you. And I'll speak more about this when I talk about the throat chakra, but just to plant it here as a seed. Our perceptions of the outside world, and specifically the perceptions we have of other people, aren't real. Let me explain what I mean by that. We're constantly not just creating fake perceptions of ourselves based off our trauma and pain, right? I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve to receive pleasure. Examples, right? We're also creating perceptions of how we think other people are, how we think that person is going to react to the words that I say, how we think that person is going to react to the movement that I express, how we think that person's going to respond to how I step forward in my power, right? We are creating those stories. Most of us are believing them, myself included. Most of us are believing the perceptions we place, the objectified perceptions we place on other people. What does this have to do with tribe? What does this have to do with that exercise that I explained? Well, when you are in a safe container where you can express yourself through those illusions, through those perceptions, what you actually now start to do is see the greater reality, right? You say the thing because you feel safe in that container, and you most of the time, 99% of the time, realize that your perception of how you thought that person would react to you was not real. That perception of that person's going to hate what I say, that person's not going to love me because I said that thing, that person's going to think I'm ugly because I said that thing. By you speaking your truth from a space of love in a safe container, you now allow your love to be expressed and received in its authentic state, beyond the illusions that are there. And I could not highlight how healing this is for our root center, for our sexual, sensual energy, and our spiritual journey at large. Because I'll just speak for myself. We are unconsciously living in realities that do not exist, that we are placing on ourselves. But when we can move through that darkness with love, truth, authentic expression, and sensitivity, then we come back to the baseline state of bliss that we are, the baseline state of love that we are, both parties, if you're doing it with someone else. Anyway, I hope that helps. A bit of a rant there, but I hope that resonates. And just checking in the comments, Jenna, you're saying, I wonder, is our lack of feeling held by our inner mother a result of not being held by our biological mother? Asking for a friend. So it's a good question. And in my experience, partly yes, because there is a biological need growing up as a child, right? There are studies now that, I talk about this in my book actually, there are studies now that have been done around rats and mice when they had litters and they did experiments with the litters that were licked and touched by the mother versus the litters that weren't. They grew and they expanded at different rates. They evolved at different rates. So we know that actual touch impacts us. However, I want to be careful with that because many of us can see that and we suddenly feel judgment towards our mother, our caregivers. And I want to be careful with that because at the end of the day, we still need to take responsibility. We still need to take responsibility of meeting that need. And we'll talk about this in next episode when I talk about this, the sacral chakra and more of the inner child. But a little teaser here. Every need that was not met growing up as our inner child, such as this touch, we now can meet ourselves. We now can give ourselves. And this is very linked to sexual pleasure, self-pleasure, self-touch, right? If that touch was not there from our childhood and we're now noticing it come up in our being, then now it's your responsibility to meet that need, to touch yourself, to give, and I'm not just sexually, right? Full body touch and caressing and connection. So the question, my friends, thank you for adding that in. And Ali, happy that exercise resonated with you. All right, beautiful beings. Well, I could talk about this all day. I'm going to pause it here and we're going to continue this in part 2 where I talk about the sacral chakra. I hope this conversation today hit your heart. I hope it gave you some practical tips and exercises. If you're watching live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, leave your comments. If one particular exercise stood out to you, let me know. Would love to hear what resonated most. If you're listening on the podcast, please share this out with a friend, a lover, a family member. And remember, don't just listen to these episodes. Take action. Go implement these tools. I love expressing them. I love teaching. I love sharing. But your reality is not going to change unless you implement, right? We can receive and be in the feminine, all that's needed. But we also need to take the divine action, the masculine inspired action. So what inspired you today? What stimulated you? What got your sexual, sensual energy flowing? That is the thing that you need to do today. So with that, I send you love. I send you light. And until next time here on the show, I'll talk to you again very soon. Bye, everyone. Before I leave you today, beautiful beings, I'm so excited to share a special announcement just with you. On the 20th to the 23rd of April, 2023, I and a fellow guest of the show, the beautiful Ali Pause, will be hosting live in Tulum, Mexico, the Cosmic Heart Tour. And I have Ali here with me now in this moment. Ali, I wanted to ask you from my heart to yours, why should the beautiful souls listening come and join us in Mexico?
Well, when I hear Tulum, Mexico, well, I guess it's a yes for me, no matter what, because I feel like a lot of us in the last, it's been a couple years since we've been through this traumatic, whatever you want to call it. And also those in the Northern Hemisphere, particularly Canada, has really long, hardcore winters, and it can be cold and lonely. And I think a lot of us are craving this community and this healing, sacred space and travel. I haven't traveled in so long. So the fact that we met on Clubhouse like 2 years ago, and the people listening to us in our rooms, our events, have now connected with us, and we have the opportunity to meet and share our gifts together in a beautiful place in Tulum, Mexico, is unbelievable to me. I'm just to the moon. So there's a lot of different reasons. Those are what I'm excited about, as well as being able to share what I call my medicine that has helped me, which is the yoga, the meditation, the craniosacral, and our book that we're birthing. So I think there's a lot of little gifts and nuggets people can get from this experience. I've been doing retreats since 2014, and this healing immersive experience I know the power behind them. I know what goes into them. I know what people get out of them. So I'm just excited for whoever's coming, really. I mean, I'm excited to be actually facilitating something live because I've been doing everything online. And the fact that I can be with you, my dear friend, I'm ecstatic about it.
So I invite you to join us in Mexico. Join us for some meditations, activations, yoga, craniosacral therapy, a book release, a live Q&A, poetry, and so much more. These spots are going to fill up super quick because our intention is to make this exclusive and intimate. So please DM me Cosmic Heart Tour on any of my social channels. That's Cosmic Heart Tour on any of my social channels, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and we'll book in a meeting so you can join the love. I'm so excited to connect with you in the flesh. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Love Antenna with me, your host, Harrison. If you gained value or this episode hit your heart, please remember to share this out with a friend, a family member, or a lover. You can also leave your love over on Apple reviews and Spotify star feedback, and this helps me spread my frequency to more souls in need. Finally, if you want to connect with me deeper, want to reach out, interested in coaching, please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn at Harrison Meagher, Meagher spelled Meagher. Sending you so much love.
CHAKRAS